Well, hey everyone, time for Geocache Talk. Whether you're at work, in the car, wherever you are, we hope you enjoy the show. Please give a like and subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Overcast, Radio Public, all sorts of places, and of course Spotify, so that you can get all the weekly Geocache Talk goodness. Big thanks to the Travel Bugs for the music and our featured patrons, Peachy1276, the No Code Geocachers, Marsipanic, Bricker John, Firesafe, and our new patrons, Scrabble Hounds and Jinxer05. If you'd like to become, don't you love those names, Jesse? We got all kinds of.
They're always creative.
They're always creative. Those GC names.
I would make some guess about Scrabble Hounds, but I'd probably be wrong anyway. So
right,
you can't just assume that it means something that obvious. Not with geocachers.
That's true. If you'd like to become a patron, head over to patreon.com/geocache talk for more details. Patrons get, where'd my coin go?
Uh-oh. Stolen. Muggled.
Stolen. See, I'm down to, I have so few coins left that, oh, there it is. I got it. Patrons get the blackout coin. Ooh.
I've decided no more patrons because I want to keep the couple ones I have.
Nope.
So we're not allowed. We're cutting it off. No more. I'm not giving them out anymore.
No, we are starting to run out of our favorite blackout coin. We're not going to redo that coin. So anyway, but no, you can still join regardless of what Jesse says. We're still bringing on patrons.
Can't keep them?
No, you keep those, but we got to add more patrons because we're doing lots of cool stuff. So all right. Patrons get new blackout coins, other geocaching items during the year, as well as bonus content and invites to special events only for patrons. Support levels start at as little as $3 a month. Let me welcome my aforementioned co-host, Jesse.
Good evening. I'm glad to be here because it means I survived my caching experience this morning.
Yeah, you did with the ice and everything. I can't believe you guys were out there.
We have to. When it snows, we have to get out there and play. It's, we've been here 8 years in Colorado from Memphis, and still when it snows, I'm still like, oh, it's a snow day. Although it's not here because everybody's like, yeah, it's just snow. We're going to work. We're going to school, but we're out playing. So it was fun, even though we came close to crashing, but
Ooh, but you're here. So that's good.
Yeah. It was one of those, you're driving and everything's going straight. And then all of a sudden you're just starting to twist sideways and you're like, this is not going to go well.
This is not good.
But we twisted back right and ended up going straight again. So I was like, all right, we'll just move on from that. We'll just pretend like that never happened. I was totally in control the whole time. Don't worry about it.
Of course you were.
Yeah, kids, you live long enough. Don't worry about
it. That's good. All right. Well, let's jump right into show 124 for November 11th because we have a great show tonight. As we welcome to the show Alexandra Boylan and John Katie Graham. Welcome to Geocache Talk.
Hey.
Hello.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. We've the three of us, along with Helena, and we're a shout out to Helena Santos who couldn't make it tonight. I know she'll listen to it later, and so hi Helena, how are you doing?
We love you.
We miss her being on tonight, but the four of us have talked off and on for. Do you realize it's been about a year since I contacted you guys?
That's
crazy.
nuts.
It's crazy.
It was, but it's okay because we kind of know how it goes. But I emailed them. I said, hey, we really want to talk about this movie, and we want to kind of have you guys on. And you're like, okay, we're in. But then every now and then I go, hey, how's that movie coming along? And they respond, yep, not yet. Okay, that's all right. Well, we're here. It's out.
We made it.
When you make a movie for very little money, you can't pressure people to go too fast. And it's not fair to push things too fast. And sometimes, what is the thing? They say everything, it's the triad, right? Time, money, and quality. So when you don't have money, it's going to take a lot of time to get quality.
Right. Exactly. And it was, we're going to talk, obviously about the movie, but we're first going to jump into a little bit of news, and then we're going to jump in and talk about some of you, both of y'all's careers leading up to this point, and then of course we'll spend most of the time, of course, talking about At Your Own Risk. But we do want to start with mentioning a couple things. Our third annual Podcast of Hope is on 12/2 on December 2nd. Starts at 4 p.m. Central and goes to midnight. 8-hour podcast. This will be our third year of doing
so
this.
Late.
It is, but it's a lot of fun. And I tell you, people don't believe me, but those 8 hours go really quick. They really do.
Well, it's a long time to be on, right? To do video and stuff like that. And I'll be honest, if it wasn't for St. Jude, you'd have to find a fill-in, because I'd do anything that anybody asked me for St. Jude. They're one of those special places. But
yes,
8 hours is a long time, so I'm looking forward to it. But again, if you ever change if we ever change the charity, you can get somebody else.
Get somebody else. No, I think
I can't say no to St. Jude, but
I know. Well, I'm not going to change it then. We got to stick with the same plan.
They're too good of a place. And that's kind of our thing now. So
yeah, it is. We're going to keep that going. Also, today, of course, being Veterans Day, we want to shout out to all of our veterans who are patrons and viewers and all of them.
Our family
of. Yeah, exactly. One of our listeners he sent me a quick note and said that he was out today with homeless veterans and working with them and trying to get their lives kind of back on track. And so shout out to all of our people working with our veterans and all of our veterans. So we really appreciate you guys doing what you've done so far. So
we wouldn't get to be having a podcast about a game we get to run around freely and play based on satellites and everything else if it wasn't for all of them. So serious thank you, and then we'll get back to the funny stuff.
Yes, very serious about that. No, we are. We really thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
From the bottom of our hearts. All right, well let's get some talk here. And I want to start with John.
Woo.
John, you are, as we talked about with Alexander and I were talking about before the show, you're a man of many hats. Even tonight, you're wearing you're of many hoodies. So
he's in his Unabomber sketch outfit tonight.
It's funny. My nickname when I was a set electrician was John the Unabomber Graham. I look similar to this, but I'd have big aviators on and a big beard. It was usually in the cold of New Mexico, and I'd have a lot of clothes on too. It was an affectionate name, not a scary name. Although
there you go.
That's good. That's good.
And Alexander also wears many hats too. We're gonna talk. We'll talk with her about some of the things she's done recently. Done over her career. But have to ask you a couple things, because when I first heard about the movie, I started looking around, and it's kind of interesting that looking at, I was like, oh, well, let me see who's in this movie. And, oh, okay. I started looking. I was like, this guy's worked on Avengers and True Grit. So talk briefly about what you were able to do on Avengers and True Grit. What was some of your things you did?
Yeah. So on both those films, I was a lighting technician, and on Avengers specifically, I was a rigging electrician. So I guess, people who are really into the terms would say that's not a lighting technician. So yeah, okay, I was a rigging technician. But so after I got out of college, where I learned filmmaking at the Savannah College of Art and Design, I moved to New Mexico and was able to get in the union, and I can go into that more if you want. But big picture, I got in the union, the IATSE union in New Mexico, as a set electrician, and started working with a good group of people. And that's what I did. I was doing lighting. So you run power on set, and you bring in the lights, and you set up the lights, and you point the lights where people tell you to, and make sure everything's safe and that it looks good per the higher ups requests. On True Grit, that's exactly what I was doing, was a lighting technician, to the point where at one point I was on set with Jessica Alba. It was just her and I on set, and it was the scene where she had to answer. I forgot what was going to happen. I think she had to answer the door. And
that's a tough life.
Yeah. But it's like, you kind of like stay quiet. You kind of stay out of the way. You try not to, you try to be just not there, even when you are. And at one point we were shooting in an actual person's house, and the old man was a very nice very New Mexican, you know, Hispanic man was still in his house while we're shooting the scene, sitting in his armchair reading a newspaper, and his phone starts ringing.
Oh no!
Ringing, and it rings, and it rings, and I'm standing there being like, "Oh, I bet this is messing stuff up." And it's ringing, and I hear like on the walkie, people being like, "Oh, so with the right." Jessica Alba looks right at me and she goes, "Are you going to do something about that?" And I was like, "It's not my job." And it wasn't. It's not my job. I don't live there. It's not my, you know, it's like I'm not in charge of that. I'm a lighting technician. So it's kind of funny. Like when you get into the union stuff, there really is that thing where it's like, if it's not your thing, you don't do it. Now, if it was dangerous, I would do so. If the phone was going to blow up after 8 rings, of course, I'd do something.
Right. Then you would have gotten up.
That's right. You know, I have to give you props for like smarting off to a major movie star. That's pretty brave.
You know, it's like at the end of the day, though, it's like I could probably get in more trouble by doing something I shouldn't do than not. Like for all
right,
I know, they don't send me the script. So for all I know, that's part of the story. Like I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of actors don't read the scripts, you know. So like they may not even know that it's supposed to be ringing. Like who knows? So no, you know, it's like, and she took it really well when I said that because I was like, someone's going to take care of it. You know, like it'll. I can hear them talking.
Yeah.
I was a lighting technician on that, and I think that when they were in New Mexico shooting, they were only there like maybe 2 weeks. So I was on 2 weeks. I'm guessing that's what it was, like while they were there. And then on Avengers, which was super fun to be on Avengers, but I was a rigging electrician, and so we would run like massive power grids so that like we were essentially mostly while I was there, I worked on Nick Fury's Starship. Because they had multiple sets and multiple rigging crews, but I was on the stage that had the Hulk's kind of shanty he lived in that they find him in at the beginning. It had Nick Fury's Starship, and it had something else. I can't remember what. And so like if you watch the movie, all of the lights that are in the ceiling, I hung up there with one of my friends, Sean McClellan. Like we hung them up there together. And it's cool. Like you watch the movie, I'm like, hey, all those lights up there that no one notices, I put those all in. But you know, and someone else made the lights, and like there's like that kind of movie has a huge crew, like it's humongous, and I don't even know everyone that worked on it. You know, and so I was never around when they were actually rolling, which probably is a good thing because that kind of show can be stressful at that level. So it was different. It was more like you're hanging out with your buddies, and you gotta go put this thing over here, and you're gonna do that, and like it was a much lower stress kind of world. So that was pretty great. It's cool to know that I worked on the Avengers. I don't think I got a credit in the film or anything that I know of.
You're on IMDb.
I have it on IMDb, but I don't know if I'm in the credits. I don't think I am. It's very weird how credits come to be. So I'll have to look. I should be under rigging. I don't know. I need to check it out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Speaking of things of that nature, Alexandra told me before the show, because we were just talking, and she goes, I was a stand-in on Thor. So tell us about that, Alexandra.
Yeah, when I moved to Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I met John and Rick Galley, our cinematographer, I thought, oh, that'd be a fun job to do, is be a stand-in. And my first job I got was for Megan Fox on a movie called Passion Play. And it was actually a lot of fun because it's the opposite of what John just said. What he would do is go in kind of beforehand, light everything, and then kind of step away. As a stand-in, you're literally second to the actor. So the actor comes in, and they rehearse with the director, and then they leave, and the stand-in goes in and does all the rehearsing with the camera and the lighting, and they light to the stand-in, and they light to you know, work out the camera with you. And Thor was a lot of fun. I mean, like I said earlier in the show, this is before Marvel took off, so we were all on set being like, what is this? It looked ridiculous. Like everyone's outfits in real life looked absolutely ridiculous. So of course, when I saw the movie, I was like, oh, this is cool. But on set, we were kind of making fun of it. We're like, I mean, obviously Chris Hemsworth, very good looking man. I was like, that man's good looking, but what is he doing in that outfit? And what is this?
Well, he looks ridiculous in this outfit, but he's a good looking man. He really is.
I was like, why did they put him in this stupid outfit? And like, it's so funny to look back now. It's like Marvel took over everything. I was like on one of the first Marvel shows. So it was awesome though. It was a lot of fun. We all had a really good time. And you, as a stand-in, you do all the like running around, like, you know, you get to do a lot of like when we were the Earthlings. They shot all the Earth stuff in Galisteo, New Mexico. They shot all the Outer World stuff in Los Angeles. So it was a lot of fun. We got to do all the stunt stuff, and we just had a really good time. It was fun. And I got to be in the mix. Like, you're right there with the director and the cinematographer, and you get to learn so much as a stand-in and kind of watch what everybody does. And if anybody wants to get in the film industry, it's a great job to get to see. It's kind of like a production assistant to kind of see what everybody does and where you think you might want to fit in the film business. It's good.
That's two very different angles of what you're talking about for what y'all do in the movies. Does it all make sense when you're doing that part, or do you get to like screen the movie ahead of time, or are you surprised when you go to the theater just like everybody else? Like, oh, that's what was going on.
From my standpoint, I because as like, say, a set electrician, I'm sure it's the same for Alexandra's experience. They don't send you the script, so I might know what the movie is and generally what it's about and who's going to be in it, but I don't specifically know the details. So like, and it's all shot out of order, as most people probably know. Sure. So you're kind of trying to piece it together as you're going. Like, you kind of feel like a detective. You're like, oh, well, what's this about? Oh, why is this scene here? Oh, I see why this scene's here, like a week later, And, from my standpoint, sometimes you are surprised because you don't always, at least when I was a set electrician, you're not looking at the monitor. So you don't always know 100% of the time what they're actually shooting versus what you think they're shooting. And sometimes you're surprised. There was one movie that I worked on where it became a joke with my DP and I, where we had a term called the inhale close, an inhale wide shot, we called it. So the movie shot, it was called Inhale. And his name was changed later. I'm not going to throw it under the bus, but that's we joked on making Home Sweet Home, our first feature film. We joked about inhale wide shots, which when we said that, we meant extreme close-ups, because that movie never had anything wider than like a medium shot. Like, it was unbelievable. Everything was just super tight, like that, like just not even the full head in frame all the time. And we were like, what is this? Like, why is it everything so tight? And
mine's the opposite, because I actually get to set and I get the sides every day, which is the script. And I sometimes have to, maybe run the lines at the scene. And then I do go behind the monitor. As soon as the actor comes in, I go behind the monitor and I watch the monitor, because I'm very particular that if she did something different, I have to make sure I do what she did in the next take. So I actually, for me, it's kind of hard to go watch a movie after I've stood in, because I watched that movie 100 million times behind the monitor as it was being shot. So it's kind of the opposite of that. Yeah.
That's funny. That's two very different angles. So you don't watch a movie that how could you? I wouldn't be able to resist. I'd have to see what it looked like.
I definitely watch them. It's just like the opposite of what John just said. It's not a surprise because I've seen the whole thing, and I'm just like, oh, that's what take they chose to do. And of course, if I do like for Thor, I only worked the Earthling days, so I didn't see all the outer space stuff. But if I'm the lead actor stand-in, then I'm in every scene. I'm there when you go to the theater, you're like, literally, it's like watching it all over again after watching on the monitor. So I would definitely always go see the movie, because it's fun to see something I've worked on, but it's never really a surprise, like the opposite.
But that's cool.
It's interesting. Both of you, this is condensed, obviously, into a podcast. We could talk for hours about this, but your experiences, sort of in these different roles that John talked about and Alexandra's different talk about. I think you're saying you learn so much that you're able to then kind of go to the process of Home Sweet Home. Right. So talk a little bit about how you got to that point of making Home Sweet Home.
From my perspective, Alexandra and Rick Gallivan and I had started making a bunch of shorts. And like, from my perspective, I had found a group of people in New Mexico to make films with again. We had a camera through Rick Galley, and then later me. And it's like, it's like putting the pieces of the puzzle together. And for a while we were making web series kind of stuff. I think we've always kind of been searching for like, what is the next thing to do? And it was actually Alexandra's brother who I think suggested we make a feature. He's like, you're making all these shorts, you're doing all this stuff. Like, why don't you just make a feature? Like, you could have made a feature by now. And Alexandra was like, he's totally right. We should do that. And I was like, okay. It's like, that's sort of how the fledgling beginnings of Home Sweet Home started.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we had no idea how to make a feature. And we just said, let's just do it and figure it out as we go. And Little did we know, 3 years later, we did not give up. But
right.
I think we did know how to make a feature because it's the same. Her brother was exactly right. It's like, why aren't you just making a feature if you're doing all the stuff? Like, we knew how to do it because a feature is just a series of smaller shorts that tell a bigger story, you know?
Right.
Each scene is a short, essentially. So we had never done it before, but there was nothing logistically different other than convincing our friends to take way longer to not work and help us. You know?
Right. Yeah. You know, that's that's like you said, it was a good sort of next step, I think, for you guys to be involved in, you know, something of that magnitude. And now you've done, you know, a couple of different things we'll talk about here in a minute. In our notes, it's funny. I put a note in there, and of course, Alexandra told us you can no longer purchase this, but I had to mention it, Alexandra.
Of course.
You were Pizza Girl.
Yes.
in your pizza adventure. Now, this is something that's great. You were part of it was an app or a video game.
John and I made it together. It's a live action choose your own adventure app game. And John plays the homeless bum in it, actually.
Nice.
Amazing.
I just want to correct that. I actually play a superhero who disguises himself as a homeless man.
Disguises. I love it.
Homeless. You don't know. You never answer the question.
Right. But you can't buy it anymore. But that's funny. So it was like, wow, you're in it. And she's like, oh, it's not. You can't get it anymore. It's like, okay, all right. But had to mention it though.
Yeah, it was an awesome game. It's too bad we had to pull it off the iTunes store.
Well, we are considering putting it on YouTube. It's just it would take a lot of work, and I just need to steel myself to do it.
Right. You're not busy. No. In fact, you know, we didn't even mention, because the people that are listening to the audio version of our show, John and Alexandra are not in the same room. John is in Arizona. Alexandra was who she mentions in Los Angeles. So John is you're working on, what are you working on, John?
Yeah, so I'm DPing a true crime show right now that's getting made. I can't say a ton about it, but it's essentially like it's true crime. It's like we're interviewing people, police officers and people involved with something terrible that happened to human beings. It's really sad, but it's one of those things where it's good for people to know what does happen in the real world. From the way I see it, it's an educational thing for people to be aware of this. Sometimes people aren't good people, just like in the movies. Sometimes people are just bad people,
Yeah.
Wait, what? No. What? Yeah, that's a spoiler for our audience. There's bad people out there.
Yeah. Didn't want to break it to you, but there it goes.
There are.
Yeah. So we're just traveling.
John Graham.
Yeah, so I'm like right now on a 10-day journey. I flew to Seattle for a few days, and then Arizona, and then I fly back to Seattle, and then Kansas City, and then back to LA after that. So that's just a couple. That's just like 2 episodes of it. And I'm just doing the B-roll and interview, and then there's people that will do recreation and other stuff for it as well.
Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Well, let's switch gears for a moment off of true crime, which is, like you said, it's kind of a downer, to a movie that my wife Susan and I watched the other night, A Wish for Christmas.
No, not Wish for Christmas.
Oh, that's right. Let me get that right. It's Wish for Christmas. Yeah.
A Wish for Christmas is Hallmark, and it's really blasé, so don't watch it.
Yeah.
My wife will like it though. She likes all those Hallmark movies and Lifetime. All Christmas time becomes Hallmark Channel. Like, don't touch that.
Yeah. It's the same thing with Susan, but
luckily I like to read, so it's okay.
There you go. We did watch Wish for Christmas and loved it. Susan and I just loved it. We had such a great time watching that movie, and so awesome. Kudos to you guys. It's really worth either renting or buying. And the interesting thing is I never really got into this side of things, but if you go to Amazon, look up Wish for Christmas, of course, find Alexandra and John, starring Joey Lawrence, Anna Fricks, Bill Engvall, as Santa,
and Lee Allen Baker.
Yeah, Lee Allen Baker. Sorry, she's in it too. She's like the main character, I guess, in the movie, which is great. She does such a great job. And you really do kind of it's so well acted. We talked about that before. It's really, like I said, it's really worth either renting or buying, which either way, but you can get it off Amazon. And Alexandra you do a great job, Alexandra. Sorry you get.
I'm not top billed. It's okay. It's okay.
We already know she does a great job. That's the problem.
She already knew that, but no, it was well done and well casted. I mean, that's got to be tough too to find the right. I mean, you guys putting that movie together, and like you said, you've got to kind of get the right people. And I think people forget that they watch a movie and they're like, oh yeah, it was a great movie, and then you go, wait a minute, there's so much that goes into it. It's just
so much work. And John and I, we take our films from conception to completion. So we even do all our casting. We did go out to, of course, Joey Lawrence and Lee Allen Baker in Billingville, but I mean, everybody else is casted, handpicked by John and I. We do the casting notices and we do the casting calls. We don't even hire a casting director. We do it ourselves. And so far, we love doing that. But we do everything. Like John and I pretty much have sort of our finger on the entire film from the beginning to the end, which is great because we get to keep our vision and tell our vision from the beginning to the end of all of our films. So
yeah, it's awesome. Go ahead, Jesse. What are you saying?
No, that's we've talked to other people that have been involved in movies before, and that's one of the things that I'm fascinated the most by is proper casting. I mean, that really can make or break a movie or a film or whatever, and because that's what everybody's going to remember first is just the chemistry between the people on set. And that seems like that would be one of the hardest things to do to get the movie just right, especially if you're creating this all yourself. So you're going to be so particular about who you pick. I'm always fascinated by that.
Well, and John's an incredible director. I mean, if you see our film Catching Faith, a lot of those people we had casted out of Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, had never even, like the daughter who plays Raven in the movie, she's from my sister's Bible study. We just saw her and we're like, you look right. And then John is just such a good director that he's able to bring out incredible performances. John, you can speak to your amazing directing.
No, I mean, thank you, but I think part of it. I think part of it's just you have to know what the story needs. And I learned when I was in film school with a particular short I was trying to make, and this is like not important in the big scheme of life. At the time, it seemed so important. I was trying to make a short, and I had a very specific idea of who I thought I wanted to have in the movie to play a character. I'd just seen the movie called The Chungking Express, which, if you've never seen it, is an awesome movie, but it's a very slow kind of romantic thing. It's like it's a strange movie made by a very Chinese director, and I just for some reason really had it in my head that my main character was an Asian girl, and like I just liked the idea of it. And one girl came in who was like perfect look and just didn't. She was a good actor, but just didn't have the heart correct. Like it didn't happen the way I just could tell in the moment, like whether it was happening or not, just in the audition. And then it turned out that a good friend of mine, Cindy Nevin, who was just one of my friends from college, who was not an actor. I couldn't find this actor, and I was like, Cindy, I think you should do it. And I had to talk her into it, and she was like completely against it. And I was like, I think you can do it, and here's why. And it's because she's a very emotional kind of person. I was like, I think that if you can just be you, it'll be perfect. And it was. She ended up nailing it, and it was great. Yeah, so I think I sort of learned from that. Like, sometimes what you think you're looking for is not what you get, and you have to know the heart of the character you're trying to find and know when that person comes in the room.
Right. Alexander, are you going to say something?
Oh, yeah. Like the essence, like what you're saying, John, is that they already have the essence of what you're looking for, and then they can it's almost like you're trying sometimes just to find people who are the person that you're looking for, as long as they can deliver lines good. Sometimes it is finding somebody that just already has the essence of that. Is that right, John?
Yeah, well, actually, if there's any actors out there listening or people casting their film, I would urge you to think about it this way. The reason we cast well is because what we do in the audition session is, first of all, and it is true, and it's really sad, but there is, at the end of the day, film's a visual medium. So if you need a specific look for, like, if you really do need that, not because you're dumb Hollywood and think you want something, but if you really do need a specific look, right? Like if I need someone to be Yakuza, I need a Japanese person or someone that's
Right.
at least Asian enough to pass the Japanese. Because if they're Caucasian, then I've got to have this whole story of why they're in the Yakuza. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, makes sense.
Typecasting is necessary to tell a certain story. However, when that person does come in the room that looks correct, if you're an actor or if you're casting someone, please realize that to get what you need to function on set, it's more than just do they look right and can they do exactly what I want them to do the first time they read the, audition session to me. Really what you need, we have lots of people that come in and they do a great performance. And as soon as I get that great performance, I'm like, okay, great. So now I want you to do it, and I'll throw them an absolute curveball. I'm like, okay, now you're not trying to, get vengeance on your husband's murderer. Now you really want this bad guy to give you a lollipop because you're like super pumped that he helped you get rid of your husband. And like you throw him a curveball.
Yeah.
If they can make that believable, that's the actor you want to cast.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it has to do with your story or not. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with, can you tell them what you want on set and they give it to you? That's ultimately it,
That's awesome.
That's wild. But I mean, that's why you do what you do. So
I suppose, and sometimes you don't have to, it's not even that you're going to do that to them on set, but sometimes things happen that don't work. Like, you thought you're going to have someone come out of the dining room and slap a ham on the table, but the ham didn't show up on set. And it turns out this house doesn't have a dining room for some reason. Like, you need someone to work with that with you, not be like, oh, I don't know what to do because there's no ham and no dining room. Like,
right.
Then you can't make it.
Good acting also comes from like when we write our scripts and I studied acting for 20 years now. And so when we write and we are like playing it out with ourselves, we are really good at being able to know, is this like a good way? Is this conversational? Is this how people talk every day? So some of it does come down to obviously good writing so that the actor has something to work with. Because sometimes I think good actors get bad scripts and then there's no way to make it good,
Right.
And that's part of the trick too, is a lot of it does come down to the writing because it's weird. It's like it needs to sound like the way you and I talk.
Right.
However, when you watch a movie, you don't want to watch people talk the way you and I talk because it's
right.
boring, like it's got to carry weight to it at the same time. So how do you make something weighty and also meaningful? And, and Tarantino is one of the reasons I think one of the reasons he's so successful goes outside of the way he shoots things. It's that he can write stuff that is it's got a super strong feeling to it, but it also sort of feels like these people could be talking this way, so it's stylistic, but it's also believable. And that's hard to pull off. And, sometimes it doesn't always get it right, but that's sort of the trick, how do you make them sound normal, but also carry weight to where it makes your heart jump at the right moment,
Exactly. Yep.
There's so much that goes into movies. People don't think about it.
Yeah.
It's amazing the amount of work and effort and everything before you even start shooting. There's so much that goes into it.
And a lot of performances come down to the editing room. You can make or break a performance in the editing room. So it's like, we might write something incredible. Somebody might say it correctly on camera. And then now how is it going to look when you bring it in the editing room and how's it going to edit together? Creating an insanely long process that I don't think people completely grasp the whole process of making a movie. It's great.
It's a complex process because there's not actually a correct answer. It's all very arbitrary. So,
Well, you guys have just finished, and I was talking to Alexandra about this. We did our little test. Was that Catching Faith 2? You're now in that kind of that step right now, right, Alexandra? You're at that point where you've got to now make or break, in a sense, the movie because you're in this post-production part of that movie. Yeah. And so, like you said, now, without giving away because it hasn't come out yet, but is Catching Faith 2, in a sense, do you feel like it follows a lot of what the first movie had? I mean, you have a lot of the same people.
Yeah, we picked the story up 4 years later. The kids have graduated college now and are starting their adult lives. And we pick up the story with the same characters. And we brought back the whole original cast, including Bill Engvall comes back and plays Coach Z. And
I got to ask you about him because a lot of people A lot of people love Bill. I love Bill Engvall. I think he's funny, and you know, and I think a lot of people know him from his humor. But I think he's a great actor. I mean, it's just my opinion. But
he's a fantastic actor.
I think he's so, you know, and we've all seen poor acting. We've seen good acting. I think even us that are just movie watchers, we can kind of, I mean, as time goes on, you can kind of go, you know, or you kind of go, why is that movie not what I thought it would be? And then you sort of think about it and you're like, and you can kind of break it down. But with Bill, I found it interesting. And of course, watching Wish for Christmas, I thought he was great as Santa because he's snarky. He's got kind of this attitude, but yet he doesn't. I mean, you can tell from that movie that there's, how to put this? His acting is so good that you kind of can feel the depth of his character.
I was going to say the depth. He brought depth to that character. It could have gone totally a different way. And Bill brought so much humanness that you care about homeless Santa Claus. Even when he's being kind of a snarky, you still care about him. And that's an incredible actor. An actor to be able to bring that kind of empathy and humanity to a character like that is a really good actor.
Yeah.
It's not just a comedian. It's a good actor.
Yeah, and his interaction with Lee Allen's character with Elizabeth in the movie, and she does a great job. I mean, you really hate her. You really do. You hate her.
Anna McLaren. You mean the daughter? Anna McLaren is played by Anna Fricks. Lee Allen Baker.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Anna. Yeah. Anna McLaren's the daughter.
She's the daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's right.
Like in the movie until her
yeah, Anna. That's right. Yeah, Lee Allen plays the mom.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, and actually, Anna Fricks is an awesome example too, where she had a really difficult task. Where you know, from point A to point Z in the film, Anna has to go from this really like self-centered, kind of, you know, mean-spirited person into someone who is empathetic of humanity. And not only does she have to do that from point A to point Z, but when you have to think about the film is made out of order, she actually had to keep track of what scene she had to be what way, and she could do it. Like we shot scenes because we'd block shoot stuff. So like when she's there shooting the stuff with Santa, you know, we shot in 2 days across the 2 days, not even in order of the movie within those 2 days of her and Santa and her parents. And like, you know, so like one scene, she has to be really mean. And the next one, she has to be super sweet. And then she has to be kind of in between. And like, he was able to nail that without me having to like, you know, over orchestrate any of it. Like, we
crazy
about where we are in the story, but that's just kind of a good actor. Like they've kind of thought through how the puzzle needs to go together, you know?
That's awesome. Yep.
And you know, Bill Engvall, I was going to say, like in both of our films, Catching Faith and Wish for Christmas, he's kind of the mentor to the high school kid, and he does such a great job. And he not only does he do a great job in the films, but on set, he's just really like when we worked with him on Catching Faith, and he came in and he had Garrett Weston, and I think Garrett was very nervous to work with him. Probably, who wouldn't be? I think we all were. And he was just so gracious and kind with him. And same with Anna Fricks. You know, her father was like huge Bill Engvall fan, so she's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm working with Bill. And like he came right in and made her feel so at ease. And that's why, I mean, we worked this week. He's in Catching Faith too, and that's our third week with Bill, because we just love, he brings such a great energy to set. He goes around and shakes everyone's hand. He says hi, he introduces himself. The crew feels like on cloud 9 when he comes around, because he just really lifts all the spirits of everyone. We love him.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to switch gears now.
Okay.
Again. We're going to talk about At Your Own Risk, but before we talk about the new movie, we were talking before, and John, I got to have you tell your story about your geocaching experience near, not near your New Mexico. That's your parents' place, I think.
Near where I live.
Yeah. We'll talk about your finding of the Burt's Bees container while you were geocaching. So, and your little learning of your local history of that area.
Okay.
Tell that story, because I think people will really connect with that. So.
Yeah. So when we were trying to kind of early stages of figuring out what At Your Own Risk might be, before anyone was involved beyond me and Helena Santos and Alexandra Boylan. We started doing some geocaching because I don't remember how it all came to be, but I told them, I was like, yeah, there's this app, and like, you know, I have it. Sometimes you can just go and find things. And so we went around and started geocaching, and I think we did 3 that I specifically remember. And one was right near my apartment. I live on the edge of the LA River, and there's a walking bridge that goes across the river from my kind of apartment complexy sort of cul-de-sac area, small apartments, you know, not conglomerate.
Sure.
And then across the bridge into like a nicer kind of neighborhood where it's like sprawling, you know, California neighborhood.
Right.
And, so I was like, hey, there's one just right down the street, so let's go. So we all went, and it's on the bridge. So we walked over to the bridge. It's like, you know, literally half a block from where I live. Walked down and onto the bridge, and then we had to find this geocache. And it said, it was like, you know, we were standing right where it says it is. We're using geocache phone apps, and we cannot find it. And the clue was something like, you gotta, I don't remember the clue, but it was not this obvious, but it was something to the effect of like, it lies beneath or something like that, you know?
Right,
and,
right.
It was probably even less obvious than that. And we finally figured out that, you know, it's weird. The bridge has these gates on either side that are always locked closed. Like I've never seen them. I mean, not locked closed. They're always open. Like they can lock the bridge on either side. And there is a sign that says bridge is closed from sundown to sunrise, you know, prosecute people, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, we'll walk over it all night. No one ever, it's never
it's
enforced.
never closed. Right.
Yeah. And how could it be? That's insane. You know, so it's like, I think what they mean is don't set up a tent on the bridge and live there. But, which people would. So, I mean, so, anyway, so we finally discover that it's underneath one of the actual iron, whatever these metal gates are that swing closed. It kind of had like if you imagine an I-beam, you know how an I-beam has like that kind of C shape on either side?
Yeah.
Sort of like half of that. So it's a C shape kind of thing. And so the C is facing down. And so there's like lips on the sides. And this geocache was on the gate portion of this that would be locked if they could lock it. And it was just, I described it as like the Burt's Beeswax, like little quarter or $50 size container that people can buy. That's like, you know, 10 on either side. And closes up. And it just had a magnet on it. So it was stuck up under there. And it took a long time for us to find it. And, you know, inside was just very simply the log sheet. And,
but it's so rewarding when you find it, though.
Oh, it's so rewarding. That's what's fun about geocaching is when you finally, some of them are hard, and when you finally find it, you're like, yeah. And I'm sure there's been some that I tried to find and I gave up on. I was like, forget this.
Right.
You start wondering, did someone steal it? Is it still here? Maybe it's not here.
Yeah.
I don't know, you know?
Right.
So anyway, we finally found it, and then we logged in and said we found it and all that. And then the cool thing was on the app that we were using. I wish I could remember which app specifically. I don't remember at this time. I've gone through so many phones that I don't have it on my phone anymore at the moment. But there was like a little bit of like insight and history that whoever put it up had written. And so there was history about the neighborhood, because I always wondered, why are these gates on the bridge if they're never, ever locked? Like, it was weird. And the history was in this geocache thing where it said, at one point, the neighborhood petitioned the city to get the bridge closed at night because they were unhappy with the unsavory characters that would use the bridge. Essentially, people that live in my neighborhood, right? Just regular people living in apartments, I think they're talking about, coming across to their neighborhood. Because my neighborhood in LA, parking can be really tricky. And if you live in an area that's a lot of apartments, there's not enough street parking for everybody. And so people have started parking in the neighborhood so that they can walk across the bridge to their apartment. And we're all normal people. I'm sure there's a couple random weirdos, who knows? But so they, you know, but when you live in a nice neighborhood, anyone that lives in the apartments is clearly a crazy person, you know?
Clearly.
And so,
clearly,
you know, the unfortunates across the bridge.
John, obviously.
So they got it. They got it. I'm speaking very hypothetically here. Obviously, I don't.
Of course.
But so at one point the city had put these gates on and would lock them at night. And I don't know, or maybe it was locked permanently for a while or something really weird. Wow. Like, I think it actually was permanently locked for a while, and it became a civil rights issue. And whoever had brought the civil rights issue against the city for locking it won, because it was illegal to prevent people access across what should be a public walkway, essentially. And so now it's open again, but the gates still remain. Still remains. But so it was cool to hear this history. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And I can sense the neighborhood doesn't always love us, you know. I think they all think I'm a part of the neighborhood because I look crazy enough to be like a rich person that's living over there that's like disheveled, you know?
Right.
But
That's
So it can go either way, right?
yeah,
Crazy
exactly.
or rich and crazy.
Or rich
Yeah.
right.
You know, but that was, to me, was really cool. It's like by doing this thing that is as simple as I want to go find a treasure, I actually learned something about the culture of my neighborhood, you know?
Mhm.
So that's where, to me, it's like that's what really kind of started getting us even more excited about the geocache idea in a way. And another time we went to one that's near where Alexandra lives, and it was kind of creepy because it's also by the river, a different area of the river, and it's what they call the Wash. And it had you could just, like, where it was hidden was kind of in like a den of where like a lot of transients, you could tell, were setting up shop. No one was
Right.
there, but it just kind of had a creepy feel, and we're like, this is really cool. Like, what if you had to do this, you know?
Oh, that's true. You learn crazy stuff like that.
Yeah, it happens. You get all kinds
happens.
of surprise places in your city that you didn't even know existed.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting. And like that's why geocaching is amazing. I think it really sold us on the idea of there's something here. And you know what ended up being the final movie was far removed from those stories. But that's how, like, anyone that's a creative knows, is you start down one path and you kind of end up somewhere
Mhm.
else. And the trajectory makes sense to you, but you know, not everyone can see how they're related.
Right.
Well, we hope that this will lead to you guys making some more geocaching movies, because there are precious few
Right.
that
So few
are out
You're right.
there. I know, which I don't understand, because it's kind of, you know, it's a cool sport. But anyway,
Well, a lot of people want to see this come into a series, so it'd be really fun to make it into a series and take the geocaching even.
there you go.
Oh yeah.
That's on the table. Everything's on the table. We might make this into a series.
There you
it's-
go.
That would be
Yeah.
cool.
I like that you call it a sport. It never occurred to me to think of it that way, but it is. It's similar to like hiking and spelunking and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And I never thought of it as it is a sport, kind of.
Yeah,
Never
I
thought of it.
always think of it as a sport. I always talk to. Go ahead, Jesse. What were you gonna say?
Well, and it's what it, you know, that's we joke about that sport, hobby, all that other stuff, but it's really dependent on how you do it. You know, there's the ones that you just walk to, you know, that are a block from your house, and they're the ones that you know, you kayak for a couple days and climb mountains and do all that other stuff. So it's really
Crazy.
user dependent, right? You can do whatever you want to do with it, or for whatever ability you have. So in that case, it's a really neat, inclusive hobby that can be for everybody,
Yeah.
or sport, whatever you want to call it. You know,
Right.
Yeah, and you know, and to be fair, I'm kind of a fledgling when it comes to geocaching compared to, I'm sure, you guys. Was it you guys who asked us about the coordinates in the film?
Yeah, I did, because it's like, oh wow, are there
Yeah.
geocaches out there at the coordinates? And
Well,
it's like,
I'll put it this way. I was wise enough when I was making up those coordinates, because I used real coordinates, but I was wise
Yeah.
enough to realize that I didn't want to use them around my parents' house, because we filmed it kind of mostly around
Yeah.
my parents' property. So I was
That's
like,
true.
someone's going to probably come out here, but it never, I just kind of thought that as like a far flung idea that it could happen.
oh
The fact
no,
that-
it is
yes,
not
yes,
far
like,
flung.
so
at
the whole
all.
thing- oh yeah, but it makes sense, you know, and like it kind of shows how newbie I am at it, in the sense that it didn't occur to me completely that it would happen, but it was enough that I was like, I'm not going to make it any property that's real here. So those coordinates in the film all exist, I think, within the Chihuahuan Desert of New
Mhm.
Mexico,
yes,
In the
all
park
in
down there.
National Forest, and there is not anything hidden there.
Yeah.
So all you will do is spend a lot of time going to a GPS coordinate, and it might be
Right.
beautiful, but
Might
you know,
be.
there's nothing there.
It'd be
there's
gorgeous.
no cache there. Yeah,
So-
no caches out there. But
Without jumping ahead into the film, to give you an example of how pervasive that is in the geocaching culture, I watched the movie with my daughter, my 11-year-old daughter, and she immediately knew to pause the movie because we were going to look up where the coordinates were. There was no hesitation. She's, oh, so what's there? We looked
What
up the
you guys
Google
thought?
satellite maps and everything. It's instinctual. If you see coordinates, you go, I need to know what's there. It's like
I love that.
could that be a puzzle?
I
You
love
can't
that.
pass a puzzle by. So
Right,
And-
yeah.
You know,
it was pretty funny.
and that kind of drives Angie's character, who's played by Alexandra, in the movie a little bit too. You know, like, but
Mhm.
what if?
What's there?
What if
What's there?
something's there? You know,
right.
and it's very human nature. I think. What if?
Hmm
That's why we shake our presents at Christmas. What if? You know.
What if?
That's right.
That's right. Well,
That
you know,
drives some people to madness, and you know, it drives other people to envision, you know, a whole new way of or process or inventions or whatever else. So that's an important question for humanity.
But you know what? You've inspired me that if we ever make another one, I kind of do want to make it that the coordinates do have a geocache there.
We should have left something in the coordinate.
No, because I would have had to walk like 100 miles.
You dedicated yourself to that, John. We walked 100 miles anyway doing the movie. We should have walked another 100 miles.
We didn't walk 100 miles straight.
Well,
that's right.
The good thing is we know a few people that would take it out there for you.
Okay.
We know a few hundred
maybe,
or a couple thousand people that would take it out there for you.
Maybe this is a cross collaboration in the future where the next time we decide what the coordinate should be and you guys are behind the geocache.
Absolutely. No, we'd love that.
What's funny about geocaching is there's the stuff in cities, but there's also there is no place that geocachers don't go for this game that you get no money out of. Like literally Antarctica, all 7 continents, Mount Everest. I mean, there's no place anywhere that geocachers don't go. Not everybody, obviously, right? I mean, that would be death. But there is literally no place that they won't travel for that kind of stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what. Since the movie came out, like I have gotten, it's slowed down a little bit now, but for a while I was getting multiple followers a day who all were geocache something in their handle on Instagram, and a lot of them I follow back just because I think it's cool and I like following people.
Yeah.
And hey, if you want to follow me at John K.D. Graham. But anyway,
we'll put that in the notes. No, we'll put that in the notes for sure.
Yeah. So now
we will for sure.
Of these people geocaching, and I've been blown away by some of the things these people are doing in the clever hiding spots, and it's just
passionate people.
It's blowing my mind.
Yeah,
I love it. It makes me want to do more.
We have a good question before we jump really good into the movie. We have a good question from the chat room, and I'll let Gary explain this one. But did you hear about the Ape Cache promotion when you were doing any research on geocaching?
I didn't
remember, but this was also a long time ago. It was almost 3 years ago at this point that we were doing this.
Gary can explain this and probably better than I can. So you might be fascinated by this.
Yeah. The reason they brought that up when geocaching first started was in 2000. In 2001, they were contacted about the movie. If you remember, the very first, there've been several since, but they did a remake of Planet of the Apes, and it was in 2001. So long time ago. And so, what you showing us there, John?
I'm downloading the Geocache app now. Sorry.
Sweet. There you go. Awesome, man. Back in the game. I love it. But so they were contacted by the studio, and they're like, yeah, we're in. What do you want to do? Because they were fledgling. I mean, geocaching had just started, like about a year. And this movie studio was contacting them going, hey, as a promotion to Planet of the Apes, would you guys be willing to place geocaches around the world? And they're like, sure, we're in. And they placed 13 of these. Of course, you guys are familiar with the ammo can because it's in the movie and everything. These are huge ammo cans. They're really weird looking. They're very tall geocache, very tall ammo cans. Well, they placed them all over the world, and there's only 2 left. For a while, there was only 1 left. There's one in Brazil, and there's one up in Seattle. By the way, you're going to Seattle. You could run out.
I'll be there tomorrow.
If you got a few minutes, I'll send you the cords, and you have to walk through this old abandoned railroad tunnel.
Cool.
To get to it, you have to go through the tunnel of light, as they call it. But there's only 2 of them left in the world. But again, it was a cross promotion for a movie, and there's a lot. It's kind of neat that they did that. So hey, there's something in the future we could do a cross promotion, with geocaching and maybe a future movie. But
one of the interesting things about that, for a long time they were down to 1 because they eventually disappeared, and people constantly all over the world went to find that one single one that was left because it was
in Brazil.
In Brazil, people are flying to Brazil just to do this,
just to find that one,
just because it was rare in the field at the time.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So we're gonna now sort of dive into the movie and talk about the movie. Now we're almost this far into we're almost an hour in. We're going to talk about the movie now, but anyway, kudos to you guys for treating geocaching correctly. We've read books before where they don't treat it correctly. You guys did such a great job. I know Jesse's cringing because we've all heard.
Yeah, we've seen some terrible. Like they must have Wikipedia'd it and thought, "Oh, that's enough research." There's only 1 million people out there playing this game. Wikipedia is cool. Let's just go with that.
Yeah, close enough. But because of and we're not gonna give away spoilers, but we are gonna kind of delve into a little bit of it. We're not gonna get away, but because of the fact that it's not true geocaching, you guys did such a great job of explaining it and then having it not be true geocaching. And so even Susan, my wife, mentioned that, they did a great job of mentioning, and y'all did a perfect job because, without, there's stuff that you can't put in a geocache that you guys even talk about in the movie. And there's at one point, where Alexandra and Helena are out there, and I think Alexandra says, well, maybe it's either Taylor or Angie in the movie says, maybe it's buried, and the other one goes, you can't bury a geocache, right?
Right. I say maybe it's buried, and she says,
because you can't bury a geocache. You're like, well, and then you snap back. You're like, well, this isn't strictly geocaching, is it? It's like
that was actually specifically written because we realized we couldn't get bogged down on what geocache had to be, but also, and it didn't serve the story as perfectly, because the truth was there weren't rules with this company. The company was, not to give it away, it's like it's not truly just geocache. It's their own game in that style.
Right.
Right. And there was the four of you. It was the brothers and sisters four. Like in the movie Thor, they talk about the four of them. It was the four of you guys and gals out in New Mexico, out in the desert.
Yeah,
literally just
the four of y'all wandering around. So
it was just four of us. It was the two actors, and then Rick Galley was running all things camera, and I was running sound. And I mean, in the sense I was directing, that I see my job as director to kind of guide the ship, but all of us had creative input in many, many things. And we had to, because it's just, there's so few of us, and it was important. But we literally had to carry all our own water out there, for a while sometimes.
Well, there's a funny story about the drone. We hiked really far up to this hill, and it wasn't that far, but it was pretty far for all of us because everyone's carrying all the equipment, and John's carrying the drone in the drone case. And we get to the top of the hill, and we're going to shoot the scene, and John opens up the case, and there's no drone in it.
No drone.
I was like, I thought it felt kind of light. I thought I was getting stronger.
Right, we were getting delirious though. He's like, I couldn't tell if it was light or I'm just getting really strong.
Right.
And to like the average person that hears the story is like, well, you're an idiot, Which, and the answer is, you're correct. I'm an idiot. However, it's like when there's only four people doing a lot of work, sometimes that's when things start sliding out of control a little bit.
You can't remember everything,
right? We had a lot of
no way. So how far, not to ruin any movie magic, but how far were y'all actually away from like roads? I mean, in the movie, it seems like they're, in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere. Obviously, that's the point of it. But how far were y'all actually away and having to carry all this gear?
It depends on the moment. A lot of stuff we shot around my parents' property, and luckily I grew up there, so I knew it like the back of my hand, so I knew where we could go to shoot what. But all of it was, I'd say, in a fairly maybe no more than a football field circumference around my parents' property. However, like the top of the hill she's talking about is on my parents' property, but it takes 30 to 45 minutes to hike to the top of it. The stuff that happens around the water source that's in the film, that was probably one of the bigger hikes, in the sense that we had to drive to this location, and then the car was our home base, and it may not have been a huge distance down to that place, but the access to it was very, very, very difficult. Like a lot of scrambling down like dirt cliff sides and you know, like barbed wire fences to climb up and down, like crazy stuff.
Yeah, Alexandra, go ahead. Behind the scenes featurette that people can get on our website, and you can see like literally us trekking down this, hiking into the area where the waterfall was. It was quite a hike, and we even said maybe we didn't think this through, and like we were like, let's get down, but how are we going to get up with all the equipment when we're finished doing it? There's a time where John's like, maybe we should have brought some ropes or something, because getting down is one thing, but then getting back out of the area with the waterfall. And we shot like, how many acres of land is that area that we got to use, John? It was like 300 acres of land.
Yeah, I don't remember specifically.
I think like 300 acres of land that is owned by the National Historical Society, actually, and they let us use some of their property to shoot on. That was
very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want to mention a couple items as we take a pause and mention that a couple things. One is I really recommend people buy the whole bundle, and we'll have in the show notes all the links to where you can buy. You can buy it on different formats. If you want to buy the iTunes, you can buy it on Amazon or Vimeo. See, I like the Vimeo one personally because you can get the whole bundle with the director's cut, which is really what I really enjoyed. And also, Helena wanted to mention, hi Helena. No, she mentioned, she goes, do not forget to mention to the listeners that if they leave a review on Amazon, iTunes, or IMDb, and you email a screen capture of that published review to @yourownriskmovie, that's all one word, of course, @yourownriskmovie@gmail.com, then you guys can send them the private link to the behind the scenes video.
That's right.
Yeah.
So please do that. I'm going to do that because I want the behind the scenes, because I watched the director's cut, and you guys did a great director's cut. I mean, I've seen a lot of director's cuts of movies, and you guys really did a good job. You talked a little you did some movie-ese, the John, which I really appreciate because I find it interesting. So y'all talked about lenses and some cool stuff that, you know, it's very behind the scene, you know, movie magic, you know, that's like, oh, you had to switch. We didn't switch to the lens till here. And it's like, oh, that's cool. It's like, this is awesome. So, and one thing you mentioned, John, in the movie that you don't think about until somebody mentions it, and that is you had to have a drone for your drone.
Yeah.
Drone on drone.
Because you had to have drone footage of the drone. So you don't think about that kind of stuff until later.
That's funny.
Because the drone is a character. Go ahead, John.
The drone's a character in the movie. Yep. And you have to shoot the drone with something. So
right.
The drone.
Two things. Like the drone on drone was fun because that's where, you know, DP Richard Galley and I were both flying drones to make that happen. So we didn't have like two drone operators come in, you know, it was just us doing it. And I've been fortunate to have a lot of experience flying drones, just, you know, small ones, nothing like crazy big. Just so all the parents out there know, playing video games helped me be a very good drone pilot, by the way. So video games,
there you go.
Amount to something, Mom. You know,
that's right.
But the other fun thing was I got to operate the drone as an actual character in the film. You know, it's like when that drone is in the film, it's being operated by me. You know, it's like it was a really fun culmination, I guess, of just that. You know.
Yeah,
does the drone have a character name then?
I don't know if we had a name for it.
Is it the real name of the drone?
No, I don't think so.
We should have named it.
I mean, I name my drones, but
just John the drone. I don't know.
I believe the one.
Because why wouldn't you name your drone?
Well, the drone that appears in At Your Own Risk is named Anna, and I named it after the main character of Wish for Christmas because I got that drone when we filmed Wish for Christmas, so I just named it the main character's name.
So it did actually have a name then.
It did. It's Anna, and then I think actually in that sense the drone that filmed the other drone, I think I might have called it AYOR. It might have been named AYOR actually, which is our slang for At Your Own Risk. You know, AYOR.
Oh yeah.
We have to make code names for our films because it takes too long to say At Your Own Risk, so we call it AYOR. And like Wish for Christmas is Wish X. You know, we just call it Wish X. You know.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
You have to tell Anna Fricks that she has a drone named after her.
I know.
She doesn't.
She probably knows because it was named that when we filmed it. But
that's true. That's true. All right. So
the whole opening of Wish for Christmas, you know, the opening of Wish for Christmas, that's all John's drone work of going around Massachusetts shooting all those exteriors, which was really beautiful.
That's such a great start to that movie too. It really sets where you are. I mean, you get a real sense for, you know, and you know, the beginning of AYOR. I'm getting real like.
Ooh, I like it. You're like I
know. I feel like
insider now.
I feel like I'm part of AYOR now. I just wanted to mention.
That's right. Gary wants a credit in the next movie.
On the inside, hey, it's true. We would. No, I'm kidding. You know, again, that's another. Again, we're not giving spoilers, but the beginning of the movie, you're like, boom, you're in, you know, Vegas, and we won't talk about why, but. You know, and that whole sequence with Alexandra really is a great setup because you need, you know, and you're like, ooh, well, what's going on here, you know, and so, and the director's cut's great because you get to find out all this cool info about about the movie. It's like that literally happened to her in the movie. The part that
I think. When you say the director's cut, I think you mean the commentary.
The commentary, not the director's cut. Yeah,
just
the
making sure.
commentary.
I think it's labeled commentary if they go to the Vimeo thing.
Go by the commentary. Yeah.
Well, a little insider into the movie is that we had a couple different opening ideas, and we actually had a couple different ending ideas.
Yeah.
We were
shot different ones, right?
Yeah, we were originally going to shoot a totally different. It was written to be a different opening. And then John and I happened to be going to Vegas. So we were like, why don't we just shoot in Vegas? And, and the funny thing is I really did swipe my card to get money and it did decline. And John was like, oh my God, I just got that on camera. It's like, like, wait a minute, but really my card's declined. He's like, use it, act.
Yeah, act, keep going.
You're on, go.
I was like, why is my card declining?
Yeah, but wait, why is the card? No, keep going. Don't break character.
So I have to ask. So you started going with that. Did you already have that? And I'm not going to say what it was, but that part written, or did you write it in after that happened?
The opening or the ending?
I mean, the reason for the card. I'm trying not to give anything away.
That was already in the script. Like that.
Okay. You just seized on the opportunity. You didn't change the script based on that.
Andrew Boylan put that into the story, and I think that when we were trying to figure out what the beginning could be, that was sort of something that just it's sort of a lot of the movies that Alexandra and I make. There's things that sometimes change or get filled in on set, and it's one of the advantages of being an auteur in the sense that, you know, we are in charge from start to finish of the story. That, you know, Hollywood doesn't always have that advantage because there's a lot of contractual obligations of what can you and can't you do with blah blah blah, and that makes sense to protect people. But we have the advantage that we can throw anything out anytime we want and replace it with anything we want, just about, you know. And sometimes that's necessary because not everything always goes the way you think it will, and it doesn't always play out the way you think it will. So I mean,
and you had some very you had some what I called or put in the notes as happy accidents in the film. Happy accidents. One, I want to go through those real quick. One of them was at the beginning of the movie or beginning sequence of being out in the desert. There's a sign that says "Watch for water."
Yes.
Yeah.
That's really there, and it just was a great set piece that looks like we have it. See, that's what we do. We shoot indies like we have $1 million budget because we go like we have all happy accidents that like the Watch for Water is such a great entrance into the whole, you know.
Because most people are gonna be like, oh, they went and bought they had to pay for all that. And it's like, no, that sign was there. Watch for water, and it's like.
Actually, I have a story about that exact location. If you want me to tell it real quick, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
That area we shot in is a little creek bed crossing that is a weird offshoot of the road, the highway-ish road that goes up to my parents' house, and it's sort of like a shortcut to just a different area of the village that's nearby that the main road would take you to, but it just is sort of a different cut through. And when I was a kid, one time my dad was driving through that crossing when a flash flood hit, and I was in a baby seat like next to him, and he like the car stalled out, and he like had to get out of the car and get me out before the car washed down that road, down that creek bed. So it's like it's literally serious when it says watch for water.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I forgot about it till just now. I mean, I don't remember it, but I remember the story.
Yeah, the story. Wow. Wow. Yeah. And the abandoned car out there works perfect.
Yeah.
We did scout that. We did scout that a little bit. Like we went out, scouted that. But I mean, that's what's great about the middle of nowhere, New Mexico. There's a ton of stuff like that. Like I really want to do a post-apocalyptic movie in New Mexico because you can go for a hike and just find like abandoned little cities.
Random
like,
stuff.
Yeah, even by John Smith's house, there's like an abandoned little, like almost like it looks like an old town, but it's just like 3 houses with a fence, but it's all dilapidated and just sitting there. And it's like fun to go and explore that stuff. And I mean, the car location was incredible. It's just sitting there. We should have left the cash in the car for people to go find them.
Exactly. But which is funny because it fits into the movie, but then it also fits inside the movie because you even say, "Hey, this is a great, this marketing company did a great job of putting these things out here, or using these, set decks, and so that and the abandoned building. Is that really an abandoned building?
It really is.
So that property is, I don't remember. Are we allowed to say what that property is? It's credited in the movie. It doesn't say specifically where that one is. Yeah. That's part of the old La Luz pottery mill.
Oh, okay.
It's a place that back in the turn of the century would make pottery. And so that was just one of the buildings that was there on the property. That it's not abandoned in the sense that there's a company. There's not a company. There's a historic restoration thing that owns it. But
they just haven't done anything with it.
No one lives there. No one uses it more than like a store.
Over the property,
right.
Stuff that was left over.
Works perfect for the movie. I mean,
so
really
once again, for all the cashers that are going to watch this, don't go to these places. They're not kidding. There's nothing hidden there. Shot the movie. Do not go there.
There's nothing hidden, but if you do go to New Mexico and go to La Luz, there is the La Luz pottery that I think you can go tour and stuff.
Yes.
Like some of my playing in their museum now. We traded them my drone footage to shoot there. So,
very cool.
So like some of these things are real that you can go see.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny.
The oldest stagecoaches still standing is on that property.
Oh, wow. That is awesome. Yeah, it's funny watching the movie and Susan watched it, and then she watched it recently. I said, take a look at toward the beginning of the movie. I said, take a look at where they stop or they have the shot of. And when Susan and I were much younger, before the kids were around, we moved to San Bernardino, California, and worked in San Bernardino. And as we were traveling out I-10, we kept seeing signs for The Thing.
What is it? What is it? That's what the signs say on the billboards. What is it?
Yeah, what is it? And what's funny is it's in the movie. I turned to her and I said, I can't believe that The Thing is still out in New Mexico because
it's probably one of the last vestiges of like the true side road attraction thing. It's awesome. And as a kid, I would always see it too, like on road trips with my family, and it just was so tantalizing. What is it?
What is it? Stop and see The Thing. Big
and
signs
everyone
for The
should
Thing.
Stop and see The Thing. It's awesome. And make sure if you stop that you talk to the people that work there about stories about the thing and what happens at night. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Funny.
Great stories.
So worth the trip out there. It's awesome. We've done The Thing.
You got to stop there for that. So, all right. So as we get to the end of the movie, again, we're not giving away the ending. It's a little surprise ending. I was surprised. Susan usually, my wife usually figures out endings before I do. She didn't figure it out.
Wow, that's awesome.
Jesse, were you surprised?
I'm going to say that I figured out part of it, and my daughter figured out part of it. So
Oh,
I was watching it together,
good.
and we were watching. We intentionally waited until today to watch it. We've known about it for a long time. We intentionally waited until today, right before the show, to watch it. So I can't say anything of what we knew without spoiling it. So I was thinking about that earlier, how I was going to be able to say that, and I can't. So
I'm impressed that you guys both figured out a part of it. That's pretty good.
That's really cool.
Good.
well, we're puzzle people, so
They are.
yeah.
Well, when we're off air, you'll have to tell us because I want to.
Yeah,
And I can't
absolutely.
even sorry, go ahead.
You can't explain it with. I couldn't. You can't explain it without spoiling it, and you can't give any clues like that to our audience, or they'll know exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Couple items as we sort of get to the end of our podcast, and again, it goes quick. I told Alexandra, and she knows she's podcast before, but couple things. You guys roped in some people at the end that I thought was kind of cool that you mentioned, and I'm glad you mentioned them in the commentary. But Chelsea Crockett is in the movie, which is very cool for those that are familiar with her. And her, go ahead, Jesse.
I'll admit, I had no idea who she was. However, my daughter, of course, knew immediately. She was like, "Hey." So
cool.
Chelsea Crockett.
That's awesome. And Chelsea Crockett's in Wish for Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Who's the girl they bully in high school that they says I'm sorry to her? That's Chelsea Crockett.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh, that's true. I didn't think about that. Yes.
Yeah, we casted her in Wish for Christmas and became actually really good friends with her and her family, very dear friends. And then we called her and said, "Hey, you want to do a fun cameo in our new movie?" And she was like, "I'm up for it." And it works perfectly for everyone. So.
It does. That is awesome. And then Helena's dad is in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's great. I love him so much in that too. He's perfect.
He's so good. And my niece is in it. The little girl in the snow, that's my niece. So it was fun to get different terrains of like.
You might be saying too much already.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know.
You know what? They're just going to have to watch the movie. Some of them already have in the chat room, but they're just going to have to watch the movie if they want to find out what's going on with that.
Yeah.
But I liked how you included a little different things. I like the Miz and the Biz backdrop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the truth is that was an example of us shooting from the hip, where we were at a Miz and the Biz event and had the opportunity to collect some footage for the film and did. You know.
In fact, I'll talk a little bit as we're getting sort of starting toward the end, but talk a little bit about Miz and the Biz, if you would, please.
Well, Helena created Miz and the Biz. Helena Santos, who's amazing, incredible. And she, I don't know, it's been many years now, like since 2011 she started.
Okay.
And just kind of she had all these amazing women in the film industry that were friends that were working and had a lot of knowledge, and she just thought of an idea of bringing everyone together to start writing articles to inspire women to get behind the camera, to encourage each other. And she started this sort of online blog called Miz and the Biz, and I think it's read by over 500,000 people. And I've been writing for it since the beginning, when I first met Helena out in Los Angeles, and it's grown to become a huge community of inspiring women and also men. It's actually, I think, read more by men than women, which is really awesome. And I was going to the 3-year anniversary party, and my Uber driver was like, "Oh, where are you going?" I was like, "I'm going to the Miz and the Biz party." And she's like, "I read Miz and the Biz." So I'm super proud of Helena because she created that, and it's really gone on to really touch a lot of people. And it's a great resource people talk about everything from casting to directing to pre-production to post-production, and people telling their war stories and then inspiring, encouraging other people to go out there and do it. So if you check out mizandthebiz.com, it's got, a plethora of articles you can read.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful that you guys do that and are involved with that. I think it helps all of us if we can encourage varying parts of, whether it be young directors or old directors or women and men. And I mean, it means a lot, I think, to really the community of in movies and movie watchers. It really, I think, adds a depth and the diversity, I think, really makes for a more richer experience for all of us.
Yeah, and I think that what's so exciting about At Your Own Risk, which I'm sure a lot of people see it, it's like seeing two women go on an adventure where they're not scared and they're not half naked. My brother Andrew Boylan wrote the script and he did an incredible job. They never talk about men. And that's like so awesome. Usually they'd be like, where my boyfriend hasn't called or something stupid. And like, right. I love it. And then when we showed At Your Own Risk at the Artemis Film Festival in Santa Monica, John, Rick, and Helen and I stood up to speak, and we had some friends there who they had their 14-year-old daughter was with them, and she said she got in the car and she felt inspired to. She ended up enrolling into UCLA Film School for like high school students because she felt inspired that women could do it because she saw women and men up next to each other working together. So At Your Own Risk is also just awesome because it's two women, two men who champion women, and. And like you said, inspiring young girls to be like, you can do this, it's possible too. So
very cool. Yeah, it is. And they're not just subplots to something else. They're not explaining characters, that they're their own characters. So that's not always portrayed right.
Exactly. Yeah. Usually, women are there to move the men's story along. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
Women, usually Hollywood would make this movie with two guys. And
that's right. This one passed the litmus test, so it's okay.
Exactly. What were you saying, John Graham? Did I interrupt you?
No.
I
was just agreeing.
Absolutely. And then mentioned the book too, Alexandra. We want to put that in the show notes as well.
My book or Helen. Well, so Helen and I co-collaborated on a book called Thriving in Hollywood, Tenacious Twice from Ms. in the Biz. And that is a collection of our articles from the site. And it's kind of like our love letter to young aspiring filmmakers. I'm 39 and I wish both Helen and I were like, what would we have told ourselves when we were 20? So that's kind of a love letter to people starting off of like, here's everything I wish I knew 20 years ago. And then I ended up publishing a book called Create Your Own Career in Hollywood. And that's on Amazon. And that's pretty much that book really takes you from when John and I made Home Sweet Home all the way to now with Wish for Christmas. Kind of people always ask, can I take you to coffee and pick your brain? And I just don't have time to do that. So I'm like, no, go buy my book. And it tells you literally how John and I have taken our career from Home Sweet Home all the way to Wish for Christmas.
That is awesome.
Very cool. Yeah.
All right. We'll wrap up. So let's, I guess I'll start and we'll go to Jesse. Oh, wait.
Is that the ones around you now?
That is Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix right now. Look at all those geocaches in Phoenix. Come on, guys, get busy. Get out there. Go find them.
That's right. There you go. There's tons all around you. That's the thing about geocaching is people don't realize the all the geocaches that surround a person. It's
That's always that funny surprise when people get into the game and they're like, well, that sounds pretty neat. Where are they? Oh, on your block. They're everywhere. Everywhere you are. You've been by them a lot and didn't know about it.
You've walked right past them and never noticed it.
Yeah.
And then you start noticing, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
All sorts of all sizes from the ammo can all the way down to really, 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 really tiny ones. Like
that's one of those you can't unsee things. So once you see it, you're like, oh, yeah, you already knew.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right, so I'll start, Jesse, and then I'll have the two of you kind of give sort of a final thoughts. So I'll give my final thoughts. Again, everybody needs to go. I would say buy it because you really kind of want to watch it a couple times to get a real feel for the movie. I think is to purchase it. My opinion is to get the bundle. You can buy them in different ways. Again, somebody mentioned to me the other day, how do you buy it? I sent them a link. Send them several links, but they'll also be in the show notes. You can always go to geocachetalk.com, go to this show, the show 124, and you can find the show notes and you can do the links from there. So we always keep that on the website. So, and you can always also just email us. A lot of people do that too at geocachetalk@gmail.com, and we can get you any information that you're wanting. I'm so glad that it's so sad we come to the end of this. It's been a culmination for me of about a year, and culmination for you guys of about 3 years. But it's been fun. Hopefully we keep in touch a little bit as time goes on, because it's been fun just interacting with y'all. I even taught John about cow catchers. He didn't even know what a cow catcher was the other day. The little ant that you saw that.
Oh, yeah. Well, I actually looked it up.
Cow killer. Sorry.
It's in the wasp family, apparently.
Yes, it's in the wasp family.
That's right. You and I were chatting about it. That's right. That's right.
That's right.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. To me, that was my geocache of the film. When I saw that thing running across the dirt, I made Rick Galley change lenses, like change what the plan was. I think I really irritated him, but I was like, we have to shoot this. I was like corralling it in my hands on the ground until we could get the shot.
Right. Yeah. It's awesome. And again, just amazing. We thank you guys so much. It was really neat. I think you guys did a great job. Again, surprise ending, and at first I'm like, sort of jolt. This is sort of a jolt of the whoa, what's going on? And then afterward, you kind of stop and you go, wow, I want to watch that part again, because you did a great job on the ending, I think. And I know there's like 3 endings. I really hope that we can someday see different endings included in the Blu-ray. But anyway. All right, so Jesse, your final thoughts.
I would say well done movie. Even if it didn't mention geocaching in it, still a good movie, right? But the fact that you mentioned geocaching in it, and for our audience, you did it well, right? So we've seen so many people that just try to do it as a gimmick because they're like, oh, there's this game where 1 million people were playing it, so let's do that as a hook, and they have no idea what they're talking about. If you're gonna mention something for a niche audience, at least get some of it right. Y'all got it right, so it was really good. And it's geocaching, but it's not geocaching. But you did a good job talking about geocaching when it wasn't even geocaching. So that was pretty cool. That was a neat way to do it. And that part will give it credibility, at least for our people. And but it's a good standalone movie anyway. I mean, it's a fun movie. Like I said, we just got done watching it today. I watched it with my 11-year-old, and my 18-year-old is going to watch it later. She's the one that could identify, the Chelsea Crockett person that I had no idea. I'm just too old. But no, good job. And I don't think we even got into it. We may have talked about it before we went live or whatever, but y'all really did this with a small number of people and a small budget, and it's professional looking. And I mean, it's a real movie. It's amazing to me. You hear these movies that cost $5 million or $50 million or whatever, that who knows, right? Yeah. You're like, I don't think they did that. I don't think they had that extra $50 million laying around to make this movie. But y'all made a good, fun movie that's appropriate and that people can watch. And it's not, and
the whole family
you mentioned
can
too,
watch.
It's not two strong lead female characters, and without spoiling anything, that means a lot to somebody that has daughters and stuff like that. So good job on it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So you guys can, as the two of y'all sort of wrap up or give your final thoughts, y'all can also, John, if you want to mention about the budget, I think that's amazing to talk about as well. If you want to mention that, and also kind of give final thoughts about the movie.
Sure. I think the first thing I'll say is just realize that everyone involved in making this film could probably all fit into a 15-passenger van together. So let's say about 15 people made this film start to finish, and I'm generalizing here, but that's probably about right, give or take. It could be more, it could be less, but very few people. And this is a true mom and pop movie in the sense that there's no distributor, there's no marketing team, everything that's happening is all just the people that made this film. So, I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, wait till it's on Netflix. And the answer is until Netflix makes us an offer, it's probably not going on Netflix,
Right.
And what we're trying to do is to prove to other people that this is if this works, then we can just keep making movies this way, knowing that that's how I'll pay my crew later, because we didn't pay anyone to do it. So, and so I guess at the end of the day, that to me, that's exciting because it opens a horizon for filmmakers that Right now, no one knows how to do it if they don't have a distributor or something like that.
Yeah.
So the support of the community is huge. It's super important to us to make this be a success. But it's already a success because the movie's out there and people like it. So, that's great. Even when people don't like it, I still like that, because if there wasn't a movie to not like, then we wouldn't have done anything. So, but you can't please everyone, and I think it's really fun and it's different, and it's something Hollywood would never dare to try to do at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, and it tells a positive message that's like you guys said, anyone can watch it. There's nothing there that you could shy away from ultimately. And if it wasn't for the passion and the love of the filmmakers that joined us on this journey, it would never, ever have happened. So especially, Alexandra and Helena Santos for helping carry me through it. And then you guys for like being that kind of passionate to keep hounding us in a good way about like, hey, let's put you on the show. Let's talk about it. Like, we were afraid that you guys would forget about us because we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be like, do they know it's going to be like 2 years until this happens?
Oh yeah. No.
But no, it was a passion project for us, and I'm really thankful for you guys to have us on the podcast, and I'm excited to listen to more of you guys too.
Oh, appreciate that. You bet. Alexandra, you get the last word.
Oh, wow. Well, first off, I want to give a huge shout out for Helena Santos because she connected with you, and it's all on her for being flippin' awesome because she is super awesome. You guys will love her, and hopefully you'll get to do a show with her. Also, she was really... Also, a shout out to her for being really careful on set to say, this isn't true geocaching. And she was actually the one who really made sure we did it correctly. And I want to make sure that we give her credit for that. And also, I think, it's like what John said, this isn't a true Hollywood film. And in a way, that's good because we allowed everyone who worked on the film to have a lot of creative say. Richard Galley, as a cinematographer, had a lot of creativity behind the camera that John and him worked really well together. Our editor, Lex Benedict, she even said, I came on this project because, when I get hired for a job, I get told how to edit. We handed her the footage and said, go be creative and do it. And same with the sound designer and the composer. And so that's where when we get to make a film as a team where everyone gets to be creative, that's something you don't get on those big Hollywood sets because somebody is dictating how it's all done. And that's why we want to be able to continue to create where our whole team brings their creative incredibleness to it, which brings an amazing film at the end. Right. So yeah, thanks for supporting our film and talking about it. And everyone, tell your friends, rate it, review it, because it really is just our little 15 people who did this.
Actually, and I will one quick call to action.
Yeah,
if
you bet.
Are willing to share it in any way on social media or anything like that, we need that because Hollywood spends millions of dollars to get the word out, and we're relying on me and Alexandra and Helena and our small team and anyone that is excited to talk about it, So
and us, well, yeah, we're on board.
Well, we're for sure. Team. And like we're super thankful to be on your podcast because you guys are not only recognizing us for something that we thought was an interesting idea to add to it, but also it's huge to get to connect with your audience, and they're all excitable, awesome people that do an amazing sport. I know now it's a sport.
Yeah,
it's like
there really you go.
Cool. So I'm glad that we got in our small way to be a part of the community somehow. So
yeah, and thanks for supporting serious, real, true independent filmmaking. This is real independent. Sundance says they're independent. They're not. They're taking movies with big star names and big budgets. But if you like our movie, help us keep being able to bring quality entertainment to people without it getting destroyed by a studio because a lot of us do.
Yeah.
And so supporting us is you're supporting true indie people who really did it ourselves with a stick and a rock. That's what I say. I'm like, we had a stick and a rock and we made a movie.
That's awesome. Yes. So much. And thank you guys for doing something like this. And yeah, we're definitely, there was, I sent the note to you guys and you got to interact a little with Scott, who, he did an event to watch the movie. And so we really encourage people to do that. And this weekend, it got mentioned a lot, and because of geocachers have something called GIF, the Geocaching International Film Festival, which was this weekend. And so a lot of people got to watch movies that were made by geocachers And so geocaching.com does they send out basically a montage of these films in a GIF event, Geocaching International Film Festival. So we're gonna work with you guys to talk with geocaching.com and try to work with our community to make sure and get this movie into more hands and for people to see this, because it's a geocaching movie. I mean, it's a different kind of geocaching movie, but it really is. So we've embraced it. We're definitely on board to continue it.
That's awesome. Thanks. Yeah, and some of those resources we don't even know exist, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
we should have known about the film festival. We should have probably put it in there. But
that's okay. Yeah, we're willing to help.
Maybe next year. That's awesome. And just so everyone knows, like, leaving the reviews is really helpful to us, because all Amazon and iTunes all have algorithms. And
yep.
Uh-oh.
Oh my gosh.
That's my alarm going on. I mean, that's my fire thing. No,
from the California fires?
No, I'm okay. I'm going to go outside.
Okay.
Anyway, it helps us get up higher in the ratings. So if leave a review, no matter what you want to say, any sort of review actually helps us. So
thank you so much, you guys.
Hey, guys, it's been a pleasure. This is awesome.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Oh yeah, very much. We'll keep in touch. So upcoming shows. So next week we've got our big reveal wrap-up show. We're doing, without going into full explanation tonight, people know that we're doing this geocache stash. We've stashed 6 caches or stashes in the lower 48, and we're giving away the last clues next week. So that's our big reveal wrap-up show. All the rest of the clues come out next week, so it'll be very exciting for somebody to find one of our 6 that are out there. There's one in California, by the way, so you can go find one in California.
I hope you didn't hide it in Malibu.
I'll do that. Yeah,
no, it's near Yosemite, so that's all we're telling people. That's as close as we've got them to. So anyway, in 2 weeks. We have on Super Nate and Pathfinder 33. I'll be on talking about county challenge and finding either all the counties in your state, or doing like Super Nate did, which was go from Tennessee to California and back to Tennessee and find a cache in every county along the road, along that route. And so kind of a fun thing to do. Jesse, you've done something similar tonight, but
something similar.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in 2 weeks. And in 3 weeks, I can't believe it. It's only 3 weeks away. We've got our 3rd annual Podcast of Hope on 12/2. So really looking forward to that. Got a great all-star lineup for that night, and so we're really excited about the third annual Podcast of Hope. We're hoping to raise $3,000 this year. We raised $2,000 last year, so pressure's on, Jesse. We got to raise $3,000 this year. So.
Well, we're gonna do it.
We'll do it. We'll
get it. We'll make our goal.
We'll make it.
Or Gary will stay on all night long.
That's right. One way or the other, we're gonna raise that. So, all right. Well, folks, we hope you enjoyed the show tonight. A little long, but we had to go a little long tonight, which is, we had a huge show tonight to talk about. So. Email us your comments at geocachetalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at geocachetalk or at Gary Slinkard, all one word. Instagram, we're doing a lot on Instagram lately. Geocache Talk, and Jesse's doing a lot on Instagram with Memphis Mafia is his handle, and definitely follow him, all one word on there. And our Facebook page, facebook.com/geocachetalk. Show can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, of course, as well as the Geocache Talk website. Don't forget to click on the subscribe button below and ring that bell down there so you can see and hear the show on a weekly basis and be reminded of the show. And tell your friends about the show and have them come back. Be part of the chat room. I know the chat room was hopping again, I'm sure. As usual, and we really appreciate our chat room folks and our patrons and everybody and all our listeners. And so until next week, don't just talk about geocaching. Go watch At Your Own Risk and buy that because it's awesome. And then after that, go find a geocache. So good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks.
Night.
Night.